Already filled out.
It is now 5:03. It's good to see everybody. I trust and pray that everybody's had a great day thus far. Great. I want to give you an update on the West Nile virus. We successfully sprayed 3 consecutive days and on every street. I saw them come through my street one night, 1 a.m. in the morning, and Saturday. And I know that in talking to several mayors, they have not even, they're waiting for the opportunity to spray. But it certainly, you have to be ahead in order to be prepared for this. So we saw this coming down the pipeline and talking with other mayors, and we were able to position ourselves well to get this taken care of. Some of you may have seen that McKinney is trying to finish up. I think they're in their 2nd day. Cedar Hill has not had the opportunity to spray yet. Dr. Rob Frankie, and they're hoping to spray and start on Thursday. So let us continue to pray for our neighbors. We have certainly have some expectations that we will see some results on this, but not only that, our great team is also putting the mosquito dunkets and pellets out in the community in areas that you would think that there might be some mosquitoes being born, and it takes 7 days to hatch. I just want to share a quick story before I turn it over to the city manager. I was just visiting one of our citizens at the hospital that was in the hospital. And I go into the hospital, and they are at Methodist, and her name is Catherine DeVille, and I know her father. And I go into the hospital, and she didn't know who I was, and I really didn't know her, other than she's Rob's child. And turns out, after I'm visiting with her and we pray, she says to me, "Mayor, would you mind staying here? The media is coming." And I said, "Wait a minute, I came to visit you. I didn't, I came here to pray with you." And she says, "Well, it would mean a lot to me if you would just talk to them." And so here it is, I'm on the news because, Catherine DeVille, find out later, she is a former producer for Channel 8 News. It was great because she got a chance. She wanted aerial spraying at first, and then after hearing the information I was able to share with her, she changed her position and felt that what we were doing was good. You just never know who you're going to meet, and what it's going to mean. So we're finished with our spraying, and they will begin to do testing soon to see what the impact. We'll get the results of that. All right, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council,
Thank you.
Take a look at your master agenda, turn to the 2nd page. On Monday, September 17th, we'll be having the city manager's golf tournament over at Thorn Tree, which starts at 8 a.m., ends at 2 p.m. We also would like to know on the 18th, we'll bring that to your attention, it'll be a resolution that would cancel the meeting scheduled for October 2nd to have National Night Out. So that's a good day for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think that's a very good decision.
Can you repeat that? It's to cancel?
Cancel the meeting for the 18th to have DeSoto Night Out on October 2nd.
We're canceling the October 2nd meeting.
Yes.
On
But I'm bringing
September
the
18th.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Also, the deadline for returning applications for the boards and commissions will be the 21st. So we're requesting that, well, we want to know if you'll be available to do interviews on the 24th and 25th of September.
What days are those?
Monday, Tuesday.
The answer here is yes.
Sounds good to me.
Two on the end. Jay? Six.
12 days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's next, man? Thanks, sir.
That's all I have.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda.
We got to discuss and consider the FY 2013 submitted budget as amended by the DeSoto Chamber, Workers' Convention and Visitors Bureau.
And the sheet in front of you is the corrected version that was emailed to you this afternoon. There's a hard copy for you.
So this is different than the one that we already had in our council meeting.
Yes, and Cammie's going to tell you what the correction is.
Thank you. So you have in front of you a revised budget as requested last week. It has a little bit of different format because I think it's easier for you to read. So going through the line items, the first line item is the chamber management fee, the $60,000. Advertising and promotion expenditures, we have $8,000 in printed materials, and that includes in-hotel room materials of $4,000, in-room annual tourism booklets for $2,500, tourism brochures for $1,000, and miscellaneous expense for $500. Promotional materials, $7,500. Printed advertising, $19,000, which includes $9,000 for brand development in the Texas Monthly periodical, such as Sports Facility Guide, and a few other magazines. Brand development in Austin Monthly or perhaps the Texas Highways at $4,000. Brand development, something else that might come along, of $2,500. And brand development, East Texas Tourism, which is a place where we get a lot of bids for $3,500. Total $19,000. Brand development logo placement, which includes pole banners and signage, of $15,000. Electronic advertising, $21,780, and that's where the miscalculation was in the original budget line item that you got. My addition didn't include one of the line items here. $8,280 for the DFW airport kiosk, $6,000 for Texas Travel Tour Texas, and then $7,500 for website and social media. Event promotions, $45,000, which includes an event of some kind, for $30,000, and other tournaments. Primarily, we do some baseball tournaments and perhaps some basketball tournaments, $15,000. Total advertising and promotions section, $116,280. Then we move into travel and professional development. We have $14,500 for travel and conventions, which includes $2,500 for travel-related or tourism-related conventions, $2,500 for professional development fees, and $9,500 for professional membership and dues. Total marketing and promotional section, $130,780. Chamber management fee, $60,000 for total funding from the hotel occupancy tax fund at $190,780.
Council, any questions?
Well, when we last left this budget, we were kind of on the horns of a dilemma. And the dilemma was whether to allow the chamber to do this function or to, let's say, absorb the function in some unspecified manner into the city. And, you know, the money was not I don't think we spent a lot of time debating the various categories of the money because we had that bigger issue before us. And so I'm going to throw that same dilemma back out on the table, maybe with a little bit different spin. I don't really have any issue with the Chamber of Commerce functioning as a visitors bureau. In other words, the first point of contact for people who are looking for information about the city or city events. I do have a large problem with the Chamber trying to take on this broader marketing function for the city for these reasons. Most of the things that you would be marketing for the city really are a part of the city. You know, sporting events, our sports facilities and things like that, they're all part of the facility, managed by the city. There are also a lot of moving parts to promoting this city. You know, how does all this tie together with the work that's being done to promote economic development, tourism, you know, events that are being sponsored by the city, events that are being sponsored by others that use city facilities, school system and whatnot. And I think that is beyond the scope and capability of the Chamber of Commerce. You know, we talked about hiring a person to do that, a professional, you know, as a sales marketing person. You know, that person really should work for the city and through and under the city manager, where he can better coordinate these activities and better promote the city. There's some things in here that, there's a lot in here about branding and money for branding. And I don't think there's a keen appreciation for the cost and effort that it would take to rebrand the city. And that certainly would be not something that can come from the chamber to the city. It's something that has to happen within the city. You know, I'm not here to argue against rebranding, and I'm not even arguing for it. But I am saying that that has to be solely and completely managed by the city if we're going to do that. You know, and it's as simple as every street sign in the city has a logo on it. You know, we can argue about how to do it because it goes from the water towers to the letterhead. And it's a very expensive and complicated process. And, you know, that can't come from the Chamber of Commerce down to the city. So what I'm proposing here is that we carve out sufficient and adequate funds to allow the chamber to be a visitor center, to be a first point of contact, to be a disseminator of information and a referral to other branches of the city or other businesses in the city. But that the bulk of this money and this fund for marketing be reserved and given to the city manager to create a marketing function that ties together everything within the city. To his discretion.
Sandy,
Yes, ma'am.
have you had the opportunity to look at this budget and say in money what that means?
I could, yeah, I've looked at the budget and I could tell you what it means, but I would like Cammie's input.
Okay.
You know, I'll tell you what it means to me.
Okay.
You know, I figured roughly that you would need, you know, a half of a person to do this function. The function as I describe it. So that would be probably $35,000, and I'm saying $35 an hour, 1,000 hours a year. We would need to pay a fair portion of your rent, you know, or use of facilities. You pay $650 a month for your rent, so we pick that up for 6 months or something like that. You know, what it would look like to me would be some figure in the order of $40,000 to $60,000. I wouldn't have any problem giving you the budget for the handout type printed material that you could keep replicating until the marketing function comes up with something improved or better or different that's needed. But rather than taking this whole comprehensive thing under your wing, you know, I'd say the amount of money you would need would probably be on the order of $60,000 to $70,000, maybe. You know, it'd be up to you to find that from this list.
So are you, I have a couple of questions. The first question is, we now that we have purchased the Passkey software, we now operate as the housing bureau for the tournaments and the conferences that are coming into town. So are you recommending that the city take on that function as well? Because there's a cost associated with that function. And then my second question would be, we talk a lot about marketing the city and the city's events, and promoting the things that the city does, which is obviously very important. But when we, as the CVB, market the city, we market to outside. We market to the outside. We market to the tourists. And so our primary function is not taking on a whole big thing. We have one primary focus, and that is to market to the tourists. Now, we put branding in here for the pole signs and for the banners, because that has always been a part of our tourism budget, because those are kind of place markers for the tour. You know, it's a feel-good thing for the city for when the tourists come in. So I guess I'm trying to find out where you differentiate marketing from tourism.
Well,
And whether or not you would take on all of the functions that we currently do.
no, I'm already pretty clear. I'm not recommending that we take on all of the functions that we currently perform. And there may be a gray area in there, based on my lack of knowledge of some of the things that you do. But when it comes to, let's say, the issues of branding, if you put up new pole signs and they're basically follow our existing brand, that's fine. If we pick a new brand up, then that needs to come from here. And I'm not saying we don't need to do that. I'm just saying that needs to be directed by the city.
Yeah, Councilwoman McCown.
Well, I'm following and agreeing with a lot of what Sandy, Councilman Rescas, has said, but I still believe we need some transition time. We want to do this and we want to do it right. And so I had some different questions, so I'll wait, because there may be other comments from council members as it relates to what Sandy has, Councilman Rescas, has recommended. Very good recommendations, but I believe it will take time to pull it all together and make sure that we implement, maybe not all of them, but along those lines, do it right. And so with that, I'm still recommending that whatever we do, whatever our decision is tonight, we need some transition time. So my input really relates to just some questions on moving forward with the chamber operating as a Convention and Visitors Bureau until we transition, set a time by which we want to implement this new plan, this new concept, whatever it is that the council, through a work session with the city manager and the appropriate staff, can put in place.
First thing, we can be on a first-name basis. I don't mind.
I know that.
And I do agree with you. I do agree with you that we do need a transition period. And no argument there. My concern mainly is how much we commit to the chamber, and what we reserve for the city as we go forward from this.
Yeah, I think, Council, that's where we left off, was it seemed that the consensus was that we would have the chamber still remain as our visitors bureau, tourism bureau. So it was the amount that we found ourselves locked 3-3 on as far as the budget amount. So if that is still the consensus, then we know, then we can at least establish that the tourism professional would remain steward of that particular business, understanding that the intent of this council may be to transition that responsibility under the city. Is that correct?
Well, I think that I agree with Mr. McCowan that we need to look at having a workshop or something, because I'm not here tonight to commit to transitioning from the chamber to the city.
Right, and that's what it's been
I heard
established.
Christine and Sandy that they made a decision to transition. And the question was how and when. That's what I heard.
Yes.
Well, they're saying they want to stave off their intent is that, but this year, for this budget, forthcoming budget, that they want to have the chamber continue to serve as the stewards of the business.
And I'm saying that I don't want to, I'm saying right now that I'm not committed to transition. I'm not committed to doing that. What Councilman Reskus and Councilman McCown are saying is they made a decision to transition.
Right.
And I have not made a decision. I'm inclined to think that the Chamber's done a good job on tourism and convention and visitors.
And I think, at the end of the day, we're only making a decision for 2013.
If I'm going on record, they're going
Right.
on record as that they made a decision to transition. I want to go on record saying that I've not made a decision to do that.
Okay.
Could I clarify?
Okay.
And that there may be some functions that the chamber will continue to do, maybe, but I think we need to work through it. I really do think we need to talk about it and spend some time to work through, you know, that. I mean, I believe the marketing professional is where I am. The marketing professional to encompass all of the entities in the city that, you know, and I'm not going to mention them again, but that's what I'm talking about. I don't want to go through all that again, but the marketing professional would be housed at the city. There may be a role that a tourism person could do part-time at the chamber. But folks, I just think we need to talk about it. We need to workshop.
I'm open for discussion.
Duly noted, council, then perhaps we can put this on the winter retreat as far as discussion of those responsibilities. But we know for 2013, we're all committed to the chamber remaining in that position. Is that correct?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not a complete commitment to it. Now, let me suggest something. Rather than muddy the waters too much, because I like your making this an agenda item for the winter retreat, why don't we commit to a quarter-by-quarter funding of the chamber, and if we make alterations, you know, after we've had a retreat and after we've discussed this, then, you know, we're not going to hire anybody. For instance, we're not going to hire somebody for the chamber, period. So, you know, that money's off the table. But there are a whole lot of other moving parts in here that probably need to continue to go forward. And we'll allow those to go forward quarter by quarter. We'll have a meeting and see where we stand. And, you know, I'm not talking about funding that we have, that we are already in the process of committing. You know, we've got certain advertising that's underway right now that's going to go on. The kiosk is going to go on. You know, there's going to have to be printed materials handed out and available. Those things are ongoing, and I don't propose stopping that. But these things that are brand development, you know, hiring of a marketing person, and things that we really are either not ongoing or we haven't really started in a major way, let's hold off on those, and we'll maybe after the winter retreat have a better view of it. That's not that far off.
Let me just say this from a city manager's perspective. I know that toss the ball in my lap. So what I would like to do is basically, if you want to, with their budget, you can just put a number in there that you want. But remember, we're the ones that have to cut the check to the chamber for their functions. So we can put a number, arbitrary number, into our budget right now, and then once we figure out what we're going to do, then you'll have a better knowledge of exactly how much you're going to allocate for them for fiscal year 2013.
Ask the question about the number, please. Does the number include, for example, the $60,000 for the chamber management fee? Maybe I should ask. Does it include, because I didn't see this, the audit function? Do you do an annual audit of the high funds?
In the past, we have used the city's CFO to audit that account. We reached out to our accountant, and in order to do, you can't separate. The CVB is not a separate entity, so they actually have to audit the chamber.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit more complicated as far as funding goes. So in the past, we have utilized the Camellia, when Camellia was here. She used to audit the chamber, because there's not very many checks that come out of the CVB account. So to answer your question, when we did it that way, it was free.
So the chamber doesn't get an annual professional audit? I don't know, I'm just asking.
That's a yes.
Yeah, we have not had one.
Okay,
That's correct.
because that's a number to me. I don't know where it fits, but that should be in there. Also, the audit function, and if we are doing business with the chamber as the CVB, and maybe this is not economic development and I'm bringing here, but we always get a contract for services. Well, is that a number we should put in there? I'm asking for some help, trying to understand some things that I did not see in here.
If you wanted to audit, I would have to see how much that cost would be to have a private audit firm come do their books. But we don't know that now.
And let me just address one issue on the pot funds. We can actually access that each month. There is a state controller's website where we can see what our hotels are actually generating each month and see what the state is reporting in the revenue. And then I think the last audit that the chamber had was when I was on the board, and we had pushed for that. And if my memory serves me correctly, as I was chair, I think it was $15,000 for that audit. But it is expensive, obviously, to do an audit, so we better have the revenue to offset something like that is just the cost of doing business, obviously.
I know some while ago we talked about the audit and we talked about the expense of the audit. And if memory serves me correctly, it was discussed that the city was going to offer the CFO to do that. And they were going to do that. And even in this discussion the last 2 months, we've heard that it was supposed to be done. And our current CFO has reached out for 2 years and been able to get access to that particular information. So some of that is different than who's going to pay for what, who's willing to have offset.
I'd like to comment on 2 issues. One is that each month, the chamber gives the board members and the liaison, who was prior to me, was Mr. Councilman Edgen, and gives Captain Jones copy every month of the financials. So every month, it has been access to financials provided by the chamber. If those were not sufficient, then we ask for something more additional.
That's not an audit.
Well, I understand an audit, but I'm saying at least it's financial. The comment was made by Councilman DeSoto Lockhart that for 2 years been asking information, not going to get it. Every month, the chamber gives a financial report. That is an audit, no, but thorough, yes.
Was the financial report that was sent around for, I think, May and June, or maybe June and July, a couple of weeks ago, was that representative of what you get?
Now, I've only gotten 1 month, so yes.
That's representative.
Yeah.
That's not a financial report.
Okay.
It's a profit and loss, and anything that's not preceded with a balance sheet, it's meaningless. In and of itself, it doesn't tell you much.
Have we told the chamber that it was not acceptable? I don't remember telling the chamber that.
I've not gotten it, so I haven't had, I'm just saying that that's not a financial report.
So what I'm saying is that if we had, if what the chamber was giving was not adequate, then we should have told them. To my knowledge, we had not told them what they were giving was inadequate. But now they know that you want a balance sheet.
Okay.
Councilwoman Lockhart?
Thank you, Jay. We talked about this before. Where there's a request for the information and it has not come. So this new idea of it is inadequate is insufficient. because there has been nothing submitted. But we have had quarterly reports, and those usually were activity-based and not so much financial-based. And we didn't ask for much more because we were expecting to continue to get that. We didn't get it. So what's happening here is because council has continually asked for different information and because we've seen tremendous discrepancies with information that has been presented, when questions were asked during presentations through work session, most of the time, those questions were not answered. So now we have a major concern because it's now budget time. It's now time to talk about the dollars and the money. Nobody wants to give money to any entity that you're uncomfortable with productivity and accountability. And that is not something that is new. What is new right now, though, is it hasn't been brought to the executive board's attention until recently. And that came up this summer when Ms. Grant was here. And he said, well, you know anything about this? That's where those functions lie. The CEO handles certain responsibilities and supposed to be managing that. And it's not our job to manage the CEO. That's executive board's job.
Absolutely, I agree.
And executive board needs to be aware of the performance or lack thereof that has come to this council, and now it's the point of hitting numbers. And that's what we're stalemating.
We cannot manage the chamber. It's not our job as council to manage the chamber. That's what the chamber's board's job is. I agree 100%. Another point I want to make was, when you say to a business, you're going to operate on a quarter-to-quarter basis. What you're saying to that business is, you're probably not going to be in business. When you basically handcuff and cripple a business when you say that, well, you don't have a year. You have a quarter. The next quarter you may or may not get funds. The next quarter you may or may not get funds. How can a business function like that and really be do long-term planning and be effective? And look at our government right now, our federal government, when you have
I object to any relationship to our federal government in this conversation. Okay, you can continue on, just not about the federal
I'm just drawing an analogy.
Yeah, I don't want that analogy.
Well,
This is city government. Let's talk about us. So let's talk about this.
James, they can make money. They can print it out of nothing.
Well,
Let's talk about this. Stick
We
with the matter at
can,
hand.
hey, let me,
All right,
CCB
Council.
budget.
Let me suggest
Council,
something.
hold just one second. Councilman Zander is speaking, let him finish.
Well, I've been asked, I have two council people who object to my conversation. I respect both of them. And so, just to make an analogy to what's happening with the continuation of the budget. That was it, the federal government.
Can I make a proposal? I agree with you that a quarter-by-quarter budget is not a good way to operate. And our duty tonight is to approve or not approve the CBB budget. I think that there are just a few items that we could hold for further discussion, and that we could allow the budget to go through. And so I would like to suggest those, and then we can go from there. I am open to other changes, or but I think that this does deserve a lot more attention than we'll be able to give right now, and our duty right now is to approve a budget. I would like to propose that.
So you're prepared to make a motion? That was
No, I have a couple of things
okay,
on there.
that's.
Okay, do you want me to make a motion and then this be
No,
conversation?
I'm just asking. you.
Okay, then I'll hold and let her
Okay,
ask. Okay.
and well, Councilman Respis and then Councilman Ledbetter, but I'm not, if you're not prepared to make a motion.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But let me just make
conversation.
I'm thinking of things like, if we pull the branding or anything that says tourism, things like that, a couple of those items out, that perhaps we could just go ahead and approve this budget as it stands, and then when we revisit this issue, that those things could be discussed in our retreat. And that's what I was throwing out there.
Okay.
Again, I'm just trying to focus from what you said, Sandy, about the budget, if we can focus on the budget and what we can approve. because I don't think a quarterly thing is the right thing to do.
Okay. All right, Councilman Ruskus?
Well, I was coming down this path, since I can't even make the numbers on this sheet add up. I was going to suggest, and I'm trying to go to our city manager's request, that we put out something like $34,000 a quarter that he could plug into the budget. That would be, what, $136,000 a year, which, you know, we're looking at 130 and 90, and that's very close to what I think, Kirsten, you were suggesting at our last meeting. And we plug that in and give them something to run on. Solves his problem, seems a reasonable amount of money, and it gives the Chamber of Commerce something to count on. You know, we will have then time to, let's say, vet this thing out a bit better.
Once
But I don't even think we have enough information here on the table, you know, for us to make a completely informed decision tonight.
Okay, all right,
So that's my suggestion.
okay. Councilwoman Lightbetter?
Just a couple of things that I wanted to say is that, first of all, I'm not that old. I know in 2 days I'm older. But I have come to realize that I don't know everything about anything. However, that includes the Visitors Bureau. I mean, I don't know that I can make a decision of the best place for it or the worst place for it, but it's been in our chamber. And I want it to continue. I would like for it to continue to be part of the chamber. As like had it at the Transportation Summit, I was able to sit by one of the cities that actually houses it at the city, the Grapevine. They have a lot, you know, to promote. We don't have as much to promote. And to me, it doesn't make sense to keep it at the city level. There are things that we want to promote in the city. We want DeSoto to be a destination. It's our vision. But I have not had problems with the chamber being, you know, a visitors bureau. So that's one of the things I want to say. Secondly, we have never done quarterly to anything or to that, and I've only been here 4 years. Again, I don't know everything. But I'm opposed to the quarterly. And to apply a number to it, I don't know that we can do that. He's saying 35, did you say 35,000?
Yeah, 34, but I'll take 35. I'll take it.
I don't know what that is. So I am opposed to the quarterly.
We do disperse money to the chamber on a quarterly basis.
You do disperse.
Yes.
But for me to figure out what the budget is, but we have had the conversation, as long as I can remember, that we really don't have a good accounting and auditing of the chamber. How that message gets back to them, James, I don't know. Who gets it to us, how our information gets to them, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you that it gets back to the chamber via directive from the council, that we want to streamline our county to go under the city, and the finance department handles their financials so that it is consistent with what we see. And that's an easy fix, I think, for us to do, because that directive comes from the city council as to whether or not the city manager can facilitate it.
If we do handle their books, I'm gonna need additional funding out of that because my staff is strapped now.
Well, we've definitely discussed the possibility of doing that for some time, so.
Do you really want to take on the responsibility of doing the accounting for the Chamber of Commerce?
Well, this is not a new conversation that this council has had. We've discussed that in keeping the books the same, so that what we see as a council is consistent with what we see for all of our different departments in the city.
Are you, just for clarification, are you talking about the format or are you talking about through auditing portion? are you talking about the format, the way it's presented to council during, council meetings, for example, to give a quarterly report? Or are you talking about?
Both have been discussed by this council and past councils.
I'm aware, and I'm asking you, which one are you talking about? Are you talking
I'm
about
comfortable with
the
both,
So
format
you're doing
as well
both
as audit.
pieces.
Now, our city manager and his staff will need to determine, what the cost of doing something like that is.
Well, don't we have more, there's more than one entity that contributes financially to this particular organization, is that correct?
Are you talking about just CVB, the CVB accounting, or the chamber?
The
CVB accounting?
overall chamber, CBB, and as well as the chamber financials, is because we see the CBB. I don't see that as the concern from the council. It's more seeing everything in the format that they are comfortable with.
Well, the city,
The past treasurer and current chair, can I ask you what your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, the Chamber of Commerce is a membership organization. We have a function as a Convention Visitors Bureau. Now, I understood what Christine said when she said, do we do things by contract? Do we have a contract? We regard the Convention Visitors Bureau function as a contract. And for managing that portion of what we do, we charge a fee. For you to want to see or manage our accounting function is not wise, because you ask, do we get money from with other folks? Yes, we do. We have 350 members. Okay, so we get we get money from membership. We have a contract with EDC. We get money from there. We have a contract, quote unquote, with the city where we perform as a Convention Visitors Bureau. As a point of being a contractor, I don't think that I've had a client ever ask to manage.
Yeah, and please, Ms. Williams, understand that I misspoke when I said if I gave you the impression we wanted to manage your finances. I'm really speaking more in the format, that the format would be congruent with what we have, so that it's easier for our council to review it. You've heard several meetings here where Councilman Respis and others have said that they are not familiar with the format in which these finances are presented.
What are we talking about now? The finance as it pertains to the Convention Visitors Bureau or the Chamber?
Convention and Visitors Bureau would be where we are most concerned with.
Okay, okay. Well, I just want to get that clear, because I'm thinking that Ms. Lockhart here is saying that over and over and over, maybe monthly, there has been a request. That request must come into Susan or by email or to the president or somebody, that we have not given you our convention, our chamber financials. And we purposely put a liaison on our board, and we have two people that come from the city. As far as we're concerned, that represents the city, and when we give them information, and if they go away with a pack like this every month, that gives them all the information about our financials. Now, that's the financials as it pertains to both the Convention Visitors Bureau side of us and the Chamber side of us. Now, if that is not the format you like for the Convention Visitors Bureau, we would be happy to change it if you just give us direction. But as far as how we report to our members or how we report to our board on the Convention Visitors Bureau, I really think that's our say. I think that's our business. Our contract with you is for the Convention Visitors Bureau, but the Chamber's financials is separate from the Convention Visitors Bureau and separate from the city.
Certainly your prerogative. I'm simply encouraging you that you may want to consider that as this council reviews whether or not we want to approve the fiscal year 2013 for the budget. So I think we've gotten some discussion going here. Do we have any indication, any one that wants to make a motion. I've heard
Okay,
130,
good things to say.
okay, 136,000, I think is what Sandy has motioned in here.
34.
Well, 34 a month, right? Okay. I mean, a quarter, yeah. I'm just thinking 140,000 total, okay, for the year, because we don't do it on a monthly basis, even though we do sign the checks over each quarter. And then I've heard that perhaps we could move the branding out, take that out. I don't know how viable that is, only because we've already started that process, and I'm sure there are funds due to that company that they've retained on our behalf.
Well, I would assume that that would be, since we still have August, September to close out the functions that have been done, that transferring that over to the city would not be an issue for 2013. That was the assumption I had. And I had a question before I leave that, and I'm going to come back to you. Kimmy, what part of this budget is the housing capacity system? Does it show up here, or is it really part of just at this point management? So it's part of the 60,000.
Right now it's part of that 60,000.
Yeah. So what I saw, just for clarification, would be the brand development and the let's see, event promotions, and then tourism-related conferences and development fees. That's the balance of that, and that everything else would stay at the chamber.
The brand development
Mm-hmm.
is quickly, are there, I'm thinking about timing, Texas Monthly, and the renewals.
And I wasn't counting that. I
You
was
weren't
counting
counting, okay.
15,000,
Okay,
45,000, and then 5,000.
okay.
Those were the figures I had in mind. Go ahead, Patricia.
I was just gonna say that I would be disappointed if we had, in the past, given them direction to do brand development, and then all of a sudden took it away. It right in the middle of the game, and and our whole point was to promote DeSoto. So I would be opposed to pulling out the brand.
Are we as a council that dissatisfied with the performance of the chamber? I know we're not happy with the accounting of how the accounting of the money, but as far as performance, are we really that dissatisfied with their performance that we want to basically take out significant parts of what they've been doing successfully for years? We are them that we are.
Well, and I'm not feeling dissatisfied. What I am feeling is that if the function was under the city, that there could be some combining of responsibilities into personnel that would make the city run better. So, for instance, we've talked about a marketing professional, and we've also talked about centralizing our marketing functions. There's marketing in other budgets, like in EDC and so forth, and that if we centralize those functions and that they're directly under the city manager, that is a more streamlined way of using the resource. So that is what I'm seeing, that we need a combined, we're not even sure if we really, when we were discussing last week about a tourism salesperson and then also a marketing person, we haven't had enough vetting to figure out if we're talking about 2 people or 1.5 people or half a person. But I feel like that function should fall under the city manager. So I do feel, because I have been a part of the branding process, that we are at a juncture that this particular move would not be disruptive. We are at a juncture where it came to us for approval, and the going forward was to look at the cost of implementing what we had talked about. So that's why I was saying that about that particular function. So I'm not stating that I am so dissatisfied, and so let me take this away. I'm seeing the need for centralizing the function and perhaps doing some combining of a person or position that is not just a tourism salesperson, that it could be a marketing and tourism salesperson. And so that's where my desire is coming from. So that's why I'm looking at it this way. And that's why the items that I picked had nothing to do with the other convention and visitor bureau's functions that they have been performing. So that's the, I'm only speaking for me.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I understand correctly, that takes it down to 125K is what you're proposing.
So it would take 65 from 190?
Correct.
Yes. And I am prepared to make a motion if we are ready for that.
I think Denise and I are paddling the same boat in the same direction right this minute, because I do think our marketing is fragmented. It's, it's handled in many places. It could probably be consolidated, we could do a better job. And that consolidation needs to take place on the city. We don't need to cut off the chamber and, throw that out completely. We just need to come to a reasonable number.
Reasonable is the word. I don't know that you can say that we're not cutting them out if we're saying that they are, the last motion that was presented is that we would have them continue as our CBD, and yet we're taking away the funds that they have presented for CBD, as well as the brand. I'm not so confident that the branding process, if I recall, the company was not only going to give that information on cost, but they were also working on the rest of the strategy. I want to ask the President, where are they at this point in the branding process?
We actually had a conversation with Tehran earlier today about what the next steps are, and they got information. They are waiting for information from Tehran about the number of signs, vehicles, that kind of thing, so that they can go out for bids for their companies and give us a number as to what they think it's going to cost, and then with that, how we intend to roll. We'll just decide how to roll it out.
When did they present? How long ago?
That's been about a month and a half.
Is it 17?
So it was a month ago and you just got a call today?
I don't know what they've been doing on there. I don't know what their functions are, how they operate, or what their plan of action was, but we just talked today, so I don't think it was an issue that they were playing around or lollygagging or anything like that. I just think that they had to get their plan together.
We're not the only city that they're doing work for right now, and they actually contacted me 2 weeks ago to have a meeting with Tehran. He couldn't meet that week. He could meet last week. They were out of town at a convention, at a conference last week, so today was the first available.
The bottom line is, though, Tehran's going to end up doing the heavy lifting on that. And
We're at the point.
Yeah.
We're at the point where the conversation is with the city, and that's what I'm saying. I just see that as a natural transition. Then the other thing about when we're talking about conventions and things like that, Parks and Rec has Chris Glover doing a lot of work on that today also. So that part is also fragmented. So, like I said, I just see it better as a centralization.
Okay.
But could I encourage us to still consider the fact that we need to workshop it?
Absolutely.
To make sure that,
Absolutely.
before we pull
Yeah.
too much
Absolutely.
out of it.
And council, we've already advised that it will be on the winter retreat, much more discussion regarding this. Let me just bring this back home now as it relates to the proposal that's been presented to us. It is customary that we have a motion on what's been proposed. Now, if that doesn't pass, then we start looking at, other ideas. So it would not be proper to have the chamber present to us their budget, and we decide, well, we're going to go ahead and first run this, change this. So let's see where we stand on this amount that they have proposed. Is there a motion for that?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we accept the Chamber's proposed revision, revised budget as presented today.
Okay. There's a motion by Councilman Zander, second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Show of hands, right hands, all those in favor? Okay. That motion fails 3-4. All right. Council, is there another motion?
I make a motion that we pass the budget as presented, with the exception of the line item 6008 of 45,000, the line item of 6006 of 15,000, and then the travel and tour, professional development fees 6041 and 6042, totaling $65,000, until we have a discussion and vet the idea of where we want these functions to be completed.
Second.
Point of clarification is the entire amount to the chamber would be how much?
About 125.
190,780 minus 625.
Now you have clarification too?
Sure.
Sandy, you have something you want to say?
Hmm?
You have something you want to say? Okay.
No, I'm just.
I don't want to cut you off, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I got my answer.
Okay. So does that mean we're taking away the ability of the chamber to do any promotional
No.
things as it comes to
The line item.
convention and
Convention?
and tourism?
No. Now, the items that I picked would be items that are very similar to what Chris does, and what we're about to discuss on our agenda today. When people come to the chamber to ask for money, seed money or additional money to have a convention, tournament, those types of things. That's what this budget is right here, the 45,000, is that correct? 30
Yes.
plus 15.
That is
It's
correct.
similar to what Texas Baseball comes to us and asks us for money for the tournaments.
Right.
That's what
And
this
they-
fund is.
Right, and they also come to us. I think
Right.
they come to both places.
Okay, that's exactly my point, that we have the money in two different places, and and therefore we end up with requests from different entities.
So
Okay,
it's
so go
not
ahead.
dollars that you're using internally for activities, it's just grants you're giving equal 45,000?
Right, but then there's these other two line items for conferences and professional development fees.
Mhm.
And I know that you said that Chris goes to those conferences, but Chris goes to sports-related conferences, and we go to like meeting planner conferences and those kind of conferences. Now, if you do some research with other cities that have, bigger CVB functions, look at the Dallas CVB, for instance. They have someone who strictly does sports conventions, somebody who strictly does meeting planner conventions. So it's not unusual for there to do different people. I understand that we're a smaller market, but Chris is Parks and Leisure Services, and so he concentrates on the sports. So the people that we were looking at would not necessarily concentrate on sports, although I have in the past gone to sports conferences with Chris, because it takes him with the knowledge of the field, and then me with the knowledge of the meeting rooms and the hotel space and other amenities that we have there. So sometimes it does take both parties.
Again, that's exactly why I'm proposing those particular functions, because they are functions that I see need to be centralized. And I'm not saying that the money would not be approved after we vet this out. I'm just saying that it needs to be held until we decide what's the best place to centralize the function. There should not be a fragmented process. Whoever's owning it, it should not be fragmented. And so that's why I'm proposing. So those two, you confirmed through your conversation, are exactly what I was talking about, which is the 45 and the 5. And then the 15 was the branding. So, but the promotional materials, the printed advertising, James, all of those things, I was seeing as leaving that there. I was picking those functions because they're ones that need city direction, in my estimation. And we need to decide what we want to do so that we can give that direction. That's why I picked those items. She answered my question. Oh, okay.
Because you mentioned until, this would be until we have the retreat.
Well,
And
at that point, no,
that-
council, it will be too late. That's
Not to
already,
amend the budget.
right.
We can't amend the budget.
Not
Well,
to amend the budget.
in order for him to have a budget for now,
Oh, yes.
what he needs to know is what do you want him to do with this 65,000? Do you,
Yeah, I mean-
if you're stripping it out now,
Yes.
then it's not there. Now, amending the budget,
I'd
I
like
don't
to.
know that we've ever done that.
Well, let me suggest though, that if we take it out of this budget right now, that is gonna be handled by the CVB, then it will be in the reserve fund. And that after our decision about what we want to do, we can allocate. Is that not true, city manager?
Well, here's what we can do.
Okay,
You got the 125 going to the chamber, okay? For those-
125.
for those functions you mentioned.
Okay, all right,
Actually,
That's
125, 780, correct?
okay, yes. Yes, sir.
The 65,000 that would be in the city, we'll put it in the budget as that, for whatever marketing for the city, we'll just
Okay.
name it as a
Okay.
line item, and
Okay.
it'll already be there, so we don't have to go back to
And
amend
change that.
anything.
Okay,
The only thing that you would have to worry about amendment for if you wanted to go back and give the chamber any additional funds for any function that
in
you want to.
addition to the 65?
Yes.
Okay.
May I ask a question? What is the downside of leaving that money, $65,000 in tourism budget, HUD funds, and then if the council collectively decides it wants to give some of the money back to the chamber or use it for the city, then give it to the chamber of the city? But if you put it as a line item in the city's budget,
No, I'm
you
not
never
putting.
go back to the.
No, I'm not putting it in the city's budget, I'm keeping it in the hot fund.
Okay, we'll keep it hot fund, okay.
Yes.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
Yes, I've done mine, it's got to stay there.
It's saying hot fund, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so would you amend your motion to state that?
I am amending my motion to state that the $65,000 I spoke of earlier would remain in the hot fund. Designated, right, Jerome, or not?
Yes,
Designated the same way that they are shown here on this budget. But,
And then the leftover fund will be allocated.
the
back to the chamber.
125,
Yes.
780 would be designated for the CVB budget.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry, for the
Okay.
record, for the record,
Yes.
I need you to retract your original motion.
And what I just said replaces my original motion.
Okay.
Is that good enough?
All right. And is there a motion to retract? Because she's made a motion, so you seconded already.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, you're amenable to her second motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, is that clear enough as mud for everybody?
Just for clarification's sake, repeat the motion
Yeah, I just
Okay.
want to
one last
avoid-
time. And in clarifying specifically, as you did, those items like 6006, which were essentially zeroing out.
And we're also adding a new line item, which we don't have the county number just yet.
Just call it.
Right?
Yeah, we don't have anything yet.
Okay. Just making sure, because we can still always do the allocation piece, and I want that line item to be lost.
Okay, so first of all, I retract my motion. And I will restate the motion, that I motion that the CVB budget be altered to remove, am I still okay by saying that?
It just reflect the following.
That it will not, the CVB budget for 2013 will not include the 5,000 for travel and tourism and professional development, the 45,000 for event promotions and festivals, and the 15,000 for brand development.
That's 6006, 6008, 6041, and 6042.
That is correct.
For a total funding of
125, 780. Is that good?
All right.
Christine, did
And
you
I
understand?
second, yes, I
Okay.
do.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Valentine, second by Councilwoman McCowan. Please show a hand, right hand of approval. All those that are in favor, aye. Hands. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, 5-2, motion passes. So the 65,000, we will have to reconvene and discuss how that's going to be managed. So, all right, Council, thank you.